My name is Lucanio Lucky Mbeki, and my kingdom stretched from the manicured lawns of Bishop's College to the vibrant, pulsing streets of the Cape Flats. I was a scholarship kid with a sharp tongue and sharper looks, moving between worlds, the rich suburbs and the township that bred my hustle. My reputation was my crown. At Steenberg High, I was the ultimate playboy, a new girl every weekend. My conquests were a blare of faces, the model from Clifton, the shy poet from Gugulethu, the aspiring DJ from Mitchell's Plain. I operated on a code: sweet talk, false promises of love, and a swift, cold exit. My boys, my amapara, cheered me on. We'd cruise in my tuned-up BMW, bought with betting money, windows down, quiet or blasting. I saw myself as a god of my own destiny, taking what I wanted. My grandmother's prayers in our tiny Khayelitsha house were background noise. My soul was as hard as the township concrete. My heart a locked safe where no one got the code. I was lucky by name, lucky by game, believing the hype was eternal.
Then, in my final matric year, a storm walked in, and her name was Amina. She was from Joburg. Her family relocated to Constantia. She wasn't just beautiful, she was a vision. Curves that moved with a natural, confident grace, skin like rich mahogany, and eyes that held a deep, unsettling peace. She was brilliant, topping the class in bio, but carried a quiet sadness, a maturity that set her apart. She was friendly but distant, untouched by the social hierarchies. For the first time, the game felt childish. My usual lines, flaunting money, cars, status, bounced off her like rain off Table Mountain. She'd smile politely and talk about her volunteer work at the Red Cross Youth HIV outreach. I was obsessed. This was my ultimate trophy. I crafted a new persona, the reformed charmer, interested in charity. I volunteered alongside her, handing out leaflets in Yanga, listening to her talk about compassion with a fire I couldn't fake. For months, I was in the friend zone, a foreign land for Lucky Mbeki. The breakthrough came when I shared a real pain, my grief over my late mother. It was the one true card I had. She saw my genuine tears. Her empathy was my in. We dated for 3 months. It was the most intense period of my life. I took her to Chapman's Peak for picnics. We danced in Kitcheners, debated politics in Long Street cafes. With her, I almost believed my own act. I felt smarter, deeper. I even started praying with her sometimes, feeling like a fraud but loving the closeness. When she gave herself to me, it was in her aunt's flat in Observatory. It was different. She cried afterwards, holding me, whispering in Xhosa, "Ndiyakuthanda, kodwa ndinoyiko." I love you, but I am afraid. I kissed her tears away, claiming I'd never leave. It was the biggest lie of my life. 2 months after we broke up, I ghosted her, my old pattern reasserting itself. She found me at the Grand West Casino. Her face was a mask of devastation. "Lucanio," she said, her voice steady but her eyes screaming. "You need to go to the clinic, get tested, for everything." The world, the sounds of slot machines, the laughter, all dissolved into a silent, slow-motion horror. She explained, her voice breaking, about a boyfriend back in Joburg, older, who had betrayed her. She'd only just found out her status during a routine donor screening. She'd tried to call me. The test at the Heideveld clinic confirmed it. HIV positive. The counselor's words were calm, factual, about treatment, support, undetectable status. But I had nothing after the word positive. It felt like a death sentence. The vibrant colors of Cape Town, the blue sky, the green mountain, turned gray. I was a plague. The fear was a physical chill, even in the summer sun. The shame was suffocating.
I unleashed my fury on Amina over the phone. I called her terrible things, blamed her for ruining my life. She listened, then said quietly, "Ndidlulisewa ubuthongo Lukhanyo, ndicela utholo, ndithandazela wena." I was past the sleeping curse, Lukhanyo. I am sorry. I pray for you. Then she was gone, back to Joburg. My friends disappeared. The whispers in the township were brutal. Uyagula, they said. He's sick. My grandmother just held me and wept, praying over me. I was a ghost in my own life, haunted by the faces of all the girls I'd discarded. My Playboy paradise had become my personal hell. My rock bottom was in a shebeen, drunk on cheap brandy. A street pastor, an old man named Pastor Joel, who remembered me as a bright kid, found me. He didn't preach. He sat with me in the stinking alley. "Ibodi yako iwile mkhuluwa," he said. "Your board has fallen, brother," a township term for a complete downfall. But a fallen board can be the foundation God uses to build a new house. Something broke. I followed him to his tiny, corrugated iron church in Site C. That night, during a prayer vigil, I fell to the rough concrete floor. I didn't ask for healing from the virus. I screamed for healing from me. I repented, sobbing, calling out the names of girls I'd hurt, confessing my pride, my exploitation. I begged for forgiveness. For the first time, I meant it. It was like a chainsaw on the lock around my heart. My repentance was a daily journey. I joined Pastor Joel's ministry. I started attending support groups at the clinic, not just as a client, but as a peer supporter. I began to speak in youth groups, using my story, the raw, ugly truth, as a warning. The charismatic boy who used words to seduce now used them to convict and heal. I felt a call so strong it was undeniable. I went to Bible school in George, my medical treatment a constant companion, a reminder of my past, but not my future. I became Pastor Lukhanyo. My ministry was in the townships, speaking to young men about true masculinity, about respect, about the dead end of the player lifestyle. I preached about grace in the shadow of disease, hope in the face of stigma. I never sought a wife, believing my path was one of solitary service. My status was undetectable, a medical fact, but the social and spiritual scars remained. I had made peace with my thorn. It happened during our annual Hope on the Mountain prayer retreat at a campsite near Stellenbosch. Hundreds from our congregation were there. On the final night, during an intense session of worship with drums and dancing, I was praying for a young man struggling with addiction. As I laid hands on him, a searing heat like liquid gold shot through my palms and up my arms, flooding my entire body. It wasn't painful, it was a consuming fire of pure love. I collapsed, overwhelmed. A prophetess from the Eastern Cape, Mama Noma, pointed at me from across the crowd and shouted in a voice that silenced the drums, "The chain is broken. The sickness is not for death. God says to show the evidence." A holy stillness fell. I knew in my spirit something fundamental had shifted. A week later, at Grootshire Hospital, my doctor, an older Afrikaans man who had walked the journey with me, called me into his office. His hands were shaking. "Lukhanyo," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I've had these results checked and rechecked in 3 different labs, including one in Pretoria. This is beyond my medical understanding. The viral load panels, they're negative. The confirmatory tests, negative. There is no immunological trace of the virus in your system. It's a serological reversal. In all my years, with all the advances, I have never seen this." I didn't shout it from the rooftops immediately. I sat with it. I prayed. The miracle wasn't just in my blood, it was the final seal on a miracle that began the night my heart broke in that Khayelitsha church. The physical healing was a divine confirmation, a message to a broken community ravaged by HIV/AIDS, poverty, and hopelessness. God sees, God can. When I finally shared my full testimony, the Playboy days, Amina, the diagnosis, the repentance, the calling, and the healing, it wasn't just in my church. It went viral. News stations, podcasts, international ministries. I was careful. I didn't preach that everyone would be physically healed. I preached that everyone can be spiritually healed and made whole. I preached responsibility, faithfulness, and the overwhelming grace of God. Today, I lead a thriving ministry across Southern Africa. I am married to a wonderful, godly woman who loves my past because it points to God's power. We have 2 children. My story, set against the beautiful, harsh backdrop of Cape Town, is a living testament, from the king of the Cape Flats to a servant of the King of Kings, from Lucky Mbeki to Reverend Luciano Mbeki, a living miracle.